Channel 5 Network. This is Morning Line with Nick Beres.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Morning Line. Nick Beres here on a Monday. I indeed hope you had a very pleasant weekend. We've got a good show for you on tap this morning. We're going to be talking about real estate, buying, selling homes, what the market is like right now, and we'll be taking phone calls as always. You see the number on the screen, 737-7587 is the number, and to join us to talk about this is my friend. We've become friends. I don't know if he considers me his friend, but I consider him to be my friend, Bernie Gallerani, who I have learned more about real estate in the past. How long have you been coming on now? More than a year?
About a year.
About a year.
Yeah. Than
I have in the years before. I mean, you are so good at filling me in on things that I never understood about real estate.
It's probably needless information.
No, it's not needless.
Okay.
I mean, especially if you're in the market. You know, as you know, we were in the market to buy a home for my son. We built a home. I have a lot of friends that are in the process of either selling or buying. And the marketplace right now, how are we looking?
Market's good. I mean, the market's really good. We had our big change that happened on Saturday, which was our NAR deal. That actually now is fully in place.
I think we reported that over the weekend. Now, has that okay, remind folks, and we did talk a whole show about this, but have you noticed a sea change because of this?
Well, it's new, so let me just say that to you. It's a brand new thing that started on Saturday, so today's only Monday.
But what does it mean, though? I mean, in anticipation of this, people knew it was coming.
Yeah. What it means basically is that any buyer that is represented by an agent will now have to sign a buyer representation agreement previous to seeing any home. Okay. Within that agreement, it will state how much money that buyer is willing to pay that agent for compensation. Mm-hmm. So that'll be a challenge, I think, for some agents. I think that's probably where the biggest hiccup's going to be. Okay. We have been fully prepared in our company for the last 2 or 3 months on this, so our team has been doing it for a while already, so not a big deal for us. But for the community, I think, of agents, that's where they'll struggle the most. That's really the big change.
Okay, and again, that can be confusing to some, but for the consumer sitting out there watching it, does that mean they're going to be paying any less or any more when they cut a deal on a house? Or will the costs basically be the same? It's just different who they're paying to? It's hard to say.
Well, no, I think that if I was to predict exactly, if I was to say exactly how this will turn out, I think really nothing is going to change from what it was previous.
So the consumer may not notice something radically different.
So listen, so right now,
next time I buy a house,
I've confirmed this with several sources around the country that this is fairly true, or I would say that it's almost 100% accurate, in that today, about 80% of all buyers require to have some sort of contribution to buying a home. Okay. What that means is that 80% of buyers today are having to come out of pocket so much money to buy a home, meaning down payment money and closing costs and things such as that they're not going to be able to purchase a home if they have to pay the commission dollars. So a lot of homeowners today might believe that they're going to save money because they're not going to be responsible for that commission. Right. But it's going to slow down the market by 80% unless they do, which means it's going to drop housing values. And really, people don't want that. So what I believe is going to happen is the seller's still going to be contributing towards the cost of the buyer's agent's fee that is responsible for the buyer itself. So I really, in the end, think that really zero is going to change in the regards of commission dollars being laid out by the seller.
Okay. And we'll see as time goes on. Yeah. There's a bunch of questions I have moving forward right now. I didn't know, was there something specific you wanted to touch on right at the top?
Yeah, so one of the things we talked about on a show previous, probably 3 or 4 shows ago, were some of the questions that a seller should be asking an agent before they make that decision.
Before they hire an agent.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, because this is an interesting thing, right? And I want to say to all the people who are watching this, when you list a home with a realtor, I want the homeowners to understand you're putting the biggest financial responsibility that you have in your life in the hands of this one person.
It's a great way to look at it.
And so a lot of sellers will make a decision based on, I really like this person, so I'm going to say yes. Or this person is a friend of mine from church, so I'm going to say yes. Or this person came as a referral from somebody else that I know, so I'm going to say yes. And I'm not sure that is really the right way to choose a realtor.
Now, those can all be starting points, though. I mean, if I have a good friend who refers to me, this is a fine, real estate agent that worked for me, I might look into it. So that's maybe how you get started, right?
That's absolutely a fantastic starting point, but it shouldn't be the decision factor.
So talk about what should make the decision.
So I think that the relationship here, Nick, of saying this is a friend or a family member or a referral, those are really great. But then what are the things that a homeowner should be paying attention to, right? So if you were interviewing me, these were specific questions that I think you should be asking. So I wrote down 17 of them. Well, we probably won't get through them all on the show, but I wrote down 17 of them. I actually looked online to see what the online responses were of what they felt should be asked. Half of those I thought were ridiculous and that they have no value in determining quality. So I made a few of my own and took a few of those.
Okay, and hang on this, because I think our viewers and myself, would want to say, I want to hear this list. But right now, as I stand, and my wife and I, when we saw that, we had a referral from someone that we knew, and we've used him, and he's been very good. But when we hired him, I mean, I don't know if I'm typical of most people. I didn't ask a ton of questions. I said, look, we see your track record. You're established. We've got a referral that we trust. I didn't. I mean, my questions were, how are you going to go about determining what we should price this? And, how will you go about selling it? Those are the questions. What are our options and all that? And that was really about it, and
those are probably some of the major things you should have asked.
I think we were happy with the results, but I don't know if it could have been better had we had a different real estate agent. But I mean, I was happy with the result.
Now, this is the property you sold a few years ago, correct?
Well, property we sold a few years ago. Our house. Yeah, exactly. The house 4 years ago.
So, and I might upset a few realtors by saying this, but in 2020 or 21, if you could fog a mirror, you could sell a house because it wasn't very difficult. Today's market, it's not as easy, which is why you're seeing many more homes on the market.
But the question even back then, when I knew our home would sell, would be, are we going to be able to get the maximum out of it?
Yes.
It's what we did and how we decided. And, we debated. We said, look, we don't want to have showings all the time and get out of the house and go, we've got all these dogs. And he kind of was like, well, sometimes that's a good way to go, but if you want, we can just do it 1 week and advertise and let everyone go. And I think I told you this story is like, he goes, that can be risky. We'll see how it goes. And we advertised it and then put out. And I remember we were driving past the house that day while they were showing it just to see. We had all the dogs and my son in the car and my wife, and we're looking. And there was cars parked. And we have a long driveway all the way down into the street. And he said, after the fact, he goes, this was one of the busiest showings we've ever had. And again, this was at the peak of things. And he said, right out that day, we had 4 offers. And we ended up going with one of those. Now, had we waited longer, could we, or done it differently, gotten more money? I don't know.
Well, no, I think during that time, it just was what it was.
It was what it was.
Okay.
Gotcha. I gotcha.
Do I really feel that created, if there was a skilled agent versus a non-skilled agent, could there have been some difference in that, not in your particular sale, but for somebody's particular sale, for a brand new agent trying to sell a house versus maybe a more seasoned agent?
Sure.
Just that experience alone could drive a different price. But for the most part, probably not. Because the market just was what the market is.
But now it's different.
Well, it is different now because the homes are not selling as quickly. And so navigating that process. We like to do what we call a carrying cost approach. So, for example, a homeowner might say, well, I'm not really in a hurry, and that means something different to me than it does maybe to them when they say it. What I would say is if you're putting your home on the market, you want to, whether you sell it in a week or you sell it in 5 months, you want to sell it for top dollar so you can move on, right? That's why you're putting a sign in the yard and you're hiring a realtor. Okay. So the reality to any of these that we're going to walk through today is if we can sell the home in a week or two and get you top dollar, every month that goes past that first month now costs you money. So if it costs you, for example, let's just say $5,000 to carry your house, that's mortgage payment, property taxes, and insurance. Then every month you're losing $5,000.
So that's the whole point. You want to sell it as soon as you can for the maximum
amount of money. That's exactly right. So if you sell it for the same amount of money 5 months later, let's just say that you could have in 2 weeks, you just lost all that money. So we have to look at that as realtors and say, let's look at the cost approach of you waiting to sell it, and can we cause a plan to cause it to sell faster. So I'm going to go through some of these questions. We may not get through all 17.
Hit a few of them because we do have some phone calls. You want to take a phone call? You want to get the questions?
You can take a phone call.
Yeah, we got some calls first, and they may not be on the subject, but I want to get through those. Let's go to Ann. Good morning. Hi, Ann.
Good morning.
Yeah.
It's not on topic, but there's a new phenomenon in East Nashville. Keep in mind that I just looked out my front door and I counted 9 homes that have not sold in the last 90 days. But the street is longer and I don't see all the for sale. One thing that has started happening is, since there was a concrete moratorium on what could be poured in the front of these new homes, they have started pouring concrete next to their parking pads and calling that a slim sidewalk to increase the amount of parking in the yards on my street. The other thing is we have a contractor who is using 2 of his empty homes as storage for all of their business, anything that would build a home is being stored in these 2 houses, which is leaving it open for theft. I'm curious, are these 2 things happening in the other city areas? Because I'm not seeing it, but it is definitely a new trend in East Nashville, especially with the tall and skinny, to increase the amount of parking that they can have in the front yard.
Okay. What do you think? How familiar are you with, the East Nashville market can be very hot. I mean, it's a hip place to live, but what she talked about.
Well, I was just in Dallas this weekend visiting my in-laws, and so I'll just address this to Ann. And yes, this is what's happening when you have major growth cities and things are changing from what they used to be 20, 30, 40 years ago. And so now on these tall and skinnies, they're putting in 2 homes on 1 lot. And it's causing exactly what Ann just said, parking issues. That's what it's like living in a big city today. And I'm not sure, unless the city changes its ordinances, which I don't believe they're going to. This is also about tax dollars. I think this is, Ann, what you are going to be dealing with moving forward.
Okay, and the fact that she says there's that many on her own street that haven't sold yet, I know you don't know exactly why that would be, but
I do.
Okay, why do you think that is?
I do know exactly why, and it's not even a question at all in my mind on why those are not selling. But I will just say this. It's always a lack of exposure, I'll just say that. So there are probably 5 or 6 things that would cause a lack of exposure. Those particular properties, I can't pinpoint each one of those because everyone might have a different issue. But it is a lack of exposure, which is why they're sitting there. And just as it would be for any of mine, if my homes are on the market past 30 days, it is an exposure issue. And then now it's talking with the homeowner about some of the corrections that are needed to be made and whether or not that homeowner wants to invest either that time to fix up the property and make it better for that price, and or actually adjusting that price and to compensate the lack of its need for its cosmetic issues potentially, or it could be a condition issue where we can't control it. It might be a neighbor and or something around the surroundings that's causing that to be the case. But I can tell you, in my particular case, you can always solve it. You have to identify it first, and if you identify it, the homeowner has to buy into it, and if the homeowner buys into it, all those homes will sell within about 2 weeks or less.
And that's because, and then getting the exposure out, meaning where people will know about these homes. Is that what you mean?
It's all about exposure right now.
Getting it out. You have to get it out, and that's what a good realtor does for you. Well, listen, we'll take a break. We'll be back with more. We're going to go down some of the questions you need to ask, and we have a few more phone calls as well.
Perfect.
All right, we'll be back with more right after this. We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us. Real estate extraordinaire agent Bernie Gallerani is with us. Good to have you on, as always.
Thank you.
Good to talk. We have another call we'll take. Wait through the break, and then we'll get to some of those questions you were talking about. Darren, good morning. Hi, Darren.
Hi, Nick. How you doing? And good morning to Bernie.
Good morning.
My question is, the Feds are supposed to maybe cut interest rates by 0.5 point next month. I have a friend who's been trying to sell his land. With that potential 0.5 point cut, how would that his chances? What's the percentage of his chances of that stimulating some buyers that may be interested in getting that? Also, on a separate note, what are your thoughts on people, black owners who own property, being undervalued when they get an appraisal for their property compared to white sellers or buyers, or basically sellers, when they try to sell their home? That it's been a trend where black people are not getting the true value of their property, and what has been done in the industry to try to alleviate that. And I'll hang up and listen. I hope you guys have a great day today.
Thank you for your call, Darren. Appreciate it. Both good questions. Good questions.
Good questions. Yeah.
So you want to hit first interest or the black-white issue?
Yeah. Let's talk about interest rates first, then we'll get into the second one. I think that any time that the Feds lower the rate, it's a good thing.
And we think it's going to happen, don't we?
No, it's going to happen. Okay. Yeah, it's going to happen about 0.5%, and he was accurate there. Anytime interest rates are lower, it makes buyers more comfortable to purchase. Now, I'm a one to say I don't really believe that they should lower the rates. I know I'm probably one of very few.
You've said that. Yeah.
And because the mess we've gotten into within our country and the high inflation that we have within our country was all caused from lots of this interest rate issue. So when we had interest rates at 3 or 4%, all we're doing is paying back that joy we had for several years is now being paid back, and our children, our grandchildren, everyone going to pay this price. And so yes, I think it will stimulate the housing market. It'll allow buyers who didn't want to buy at a 0.5% more or even 1% more, because they've come down over the last.
What are we at now? Right now,
it just depends.
Is it 6%?
Yeah, it's mid sixes depending on if you go in FHA, VA, or if you go in conventional.
So it might go to 5.5.
It could probably go into the high 5s.
Is that a big deal? That much?
Anything that goes down is a big deal. So I mean, it's just anytime you can save some money, it's a big deal. So yes, could it potentially help your friend? Absolutely. The challenge, though, is this: residential property, so a dwelling that people live in, always sells quicker and faster than land in most cases. Okay. Now, if someone's looking for land, then the thing I just made doesn't matter. But for the most part, land sells at much slower rate. Even if interest rates are lower, land sells at a much lower rate than residential properties, dwellings.
Is there a reason for that? Because I would think right now, especially depending on where that land is, it can be very desirable. If there's a lot somewhere and it's not in some subdivision where some builder's selling lots, to get one on your own, if you're of the mind to build, really gives you a lot of control. You can have your own thing. It can be very sought after, and in a nice area, it's hard to find. Is that not true, or is it?
I would say this. The 0.5 point in difference isn't going to change a very desirable lot. Okay. Someone's going to buy it anyway if it's a very desirable lot. If it's a general lot, meaning it's a great piece of property for sale, and there's a whole bunch of them for sale, it doesn't really change the equation a whole lot there.
Okay, I got you.
I mean, there will be some more consumers coming out to purchase. Let me address his other question regarding the white. I'm not familiar with any of that, and so I would just say this to him that asked the question. Whatever the assessment or appraisal value is from the assessor's office, which I wasn't sure if he was asking that question, I can't comment on that, but I can say this too about a buyer. If a buyer comes out and sees a property that they like, regardless of the ethnicity of the person who lives in the home, I've never seen it ever change the value of a home based on the previous owner or who is the owner of that particular property. The tax assessor, I don't know how that would work because I'm not in the assessor's office as far as evaluations of tax assessments and or appraisals. Not my field, and so I don't know if I could comment in them, but I can say on the selling side, where it didn't really matter who the owner was of that property, the values of that property based on the condition of the home and its location are always the determining factors on the price.
Okay, and I think you're dead on that. And I don't know, I guess Darren's hung up, but I wonder if also he was maybe referencing something else that maybe, I've heard cases of this where someone's inquiring about a home on the phone in a certain neighborhood, and they say come out and look at it, and when they show up, the people selling it see that the person who shows up happens to be black, and all of a sudden the mood, or oh, this is already, you know, that kind of racism. And again, I'm sure that's nothing you've encountered, but have you ever heard of any of that happening?
I will say this to you. I have had folks that have called us and said that they don't want to live in those particular neighborhoods. If somebody has, if this is how we work, I can't speak for everybody, if we have any sort of a racial conversation where somebody has an issue with that, we just choose not to work with that person.
Right, so if you had a homeowner saying, look, I want to sell my house, but I'm not selling it to anyone but a white.
I'm not working with that person.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah, and, or somebody call, because sometimes they'll call us, or they'll call realtors, it's happened to us, where they'll call and they'll say, I don't want to look, let's just say we're saying, I don't want to look at anybody's homes that's African American, let's just say this, or Hispanic or whatever. We don't want to work with a client like that way anyway.
Right.
That's not really our goal.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen, I'm sure
Unfortunately, I'm sure it does.
But in his question is, does it affect their home value, which is what I thought it heard his question to be. I've not experienced that, but it doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Good question, Darren. Yeah. As far as some of the questions, again, about hiring someone to help you sell a house. We're going through a line of those. We can take more calls if you want to call in as well.
So we'll go through. So we talk about some. I'll mention something. But one of the questions I wrote is, what's the best price you think that we could get for the sale of our home?
Bingo. That's the most obvious first question. I told you, I only asked a couple. And that was the first one I asked.
Well, here's the thing. For the most part, it's somewhat of a guess because we're working on comps and comparables. And I want all the homeowners out there to understand. If you want $500,000 for a piece of property, I can show you $500,000. All right. Okay. If you want $550,000, I can show you $550,000. Meaning I can show you comparables for $550,000. If you want $450,000, I can show you $450,000. So I can find anything that I want to find, but it doesn't mean that's what it'll sell for. So this is actually, believe it or not, out of all 17, this is one of the most important questions that there's the answer you get, you have no idea if it's the true answer because it's merely, it's either a calculated guess on the realtor side and or it's an educated guess based on the realtor's experience. And so we can get into that.
But that's it's an important question because if I have an inexperienced realtor who says, well, the most we can get is $450,000. And, you know, and that's what you end up getting. But then the next day, your neighbor's house goes on sale, which looks exactly like yours, and they sell it for $550,000. You know, meaning you're sold real quick because he underpriced it. You know, I mean, you want
I don't believe that's possible. You're not I don't believe that's possible.
What do you mean?
Underpricing a home. I think you're going to...
Well, if someone says it's $450,000 and it's really worth $500,000, that would be underpricing it, wouldn't it?
If it's really worth $450,000 and you list it at $450,000, it's going to sell for $550,000 if it's worth $550,000.
Okay.
It happens a lot.
Meaning someone will offer above that amount.
That's what bidding wars are all about.
Gotcha.
Okay. So I've never seen it happen where a house is undersold. I've heard it a lot from sellers where the neighbors undersold their house because of their reasons. It has never happened in the world I've lived in. I've sold 7,000 properties and I've never seen it happen.
So, see, again, something I learned from you. I like that. So that's interesting because I thought, well, if you underprice it, someone's going to jump on it and buy it. Maybe in a market where homes aren't selling a real lot and they're getting a really good deal on it. But you're saying that's not true. If you underprice your home because maybe you miscalculated, you may get an offer for that, but someone else is going to see it and say, wow, that's great. It's worth $550,000. I'm going to offer him $500,000, you know, instead of $450,000. Is that what you're saying might happen?
What happens is the buyers are shopping. Let's choose $500,000.
Okay.
The buyers are shopping and they're looking at $500,000 homes, correct? And so if you price it at $450,000 and they're looking up to $500,000, say $450,000 to $500,000.
And this one comes in the comp for $500,000.
Well, let's just say they're looking at $500,000 homes. Okay. But they're also not just looking at $500,000. They're probably looking between $450,000 and $500,000, right? So if they come in, they look at this property, but it's the same house as a $450,000. There's other buyers that are also going to see that it's priced low. And it's a good quality home, and everybody wants to have it because there's $50,000 of equity, and then bidding wars start.
Okay.
Next thing you know, it sells for over $500,000 because that's what happened in 2020 and 2021.
Well, yeah, that would it happen today?
It'll happen right. We have it happen right now. We have listings now that are priced that are such attractive properties that we're getting multiple offers on those properties even today. Now it's not like we did in 21 or 22, let's just say, but yeah, it's certainly happening.
Now on the other side of the coin, if you overprice.
It sits on the market.
That's more damaging then, obviously.
Yes, and this is so these
rare.
are all that's well, it is a little bit. So the next question is, how long do you think it'll take to sell my home? All right,
that's probably the next question.
So I'm not sure we've ever talked about it on this show. We've always talked about our instant offer program, but I have a program, and I may have mentioned it actually, maybe the last time I was here two months ago, that I have a guaranteed sell.
Oh yeah, we've talked about
sell
that.
Your home in 30 days, or I'll personally buy it. Right. So what happens is, if I list your home, I don't have it sold in 30 days. I'll just buy the house myself.
It's on screen.
So that's the instant offer program. It says I'll buy it within 2 weeks. So I'll pay cash for the property. What's on there is the instant offer program. But now what I have is, I'll list your home for 30 days, and if I don't sell within 30 days, I'll personally buy the property myself.
It's not like a guarantee. Your house will sell.
I'm putting my money exactly where my mouth is. It says I'll have your home sold in 30 days. So when we just had Ann call earlier, we said, well, all these homes are sitting on the market. I said, it's just an exposure problem is all it is. It's nothing more than exposing it to the buyers who are out there looking, because there are buyers out there looking.
But what will you buy it for 30 days for? The price that you priced it at?
Well, it depends on what the feedback is on the property, but there's a fee that we charge to buy the property, but it's really not that much different than if you had to make a price adjustment on the home to get it sold anyway. We're just guaranteeing the sale. So
that's kind of a guarantee of a sale.
Oh, I'll buy it, for sure. Yeah, I'll buy the property. So that's something for people to understand, that your home can sell in 30 days. So how long will it take to sell my house? Well, it shouldn't take more than 30 days.
Right.
But in order for it to sell in 30 days, you have to have all hands on deck. You have to have your realtor fully paying attention to your property. You have to pay attention to every person who shows the home. You have to pay attention to every day it's not shown, because there should be so much activity. And we'll get into that. I think we've talked about it in previous shows. You should have about 3 to 5 showings within about 7 to 10 days on your property. You should have between 8 and 12 showings within the first 30 days. You should always have at least 1 to 2 offers within that period of time.
Okay. Let's take a break, and I'll pick up. Or else we have more phone calls. You're becoming popular. Look, you're getting all these calls. Okay. But you know, as I sit here listening, you love this stuff, don't you?
Oh yeah.
Dude, he loves this stuff. I will be back with more right after this. We are back on Morning Line. Bernie Gallerani is with us, talking real estate, as you know, and we've got someone who waited through the break. More of your questions for getting a realtor,
let's go.
Phone lines are open, 737-7587. Joanne. Good morning, Joanne. Hello, Joanne.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you guys?
Good. How are you? Thank you for calling.
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so very much. So I've been in Nashville now for about 14 years. I'm originally from Mississippi. And let me just tell you, I know that you're a realtor and all that, and I just love your show. I watch it every single morning when I get with a cup of coffee. Just absolutely love you guys. But one of the things that I just really hate about this market that we're in are the home prices. I mean, I'm just telling you, the home prices are just absolutely ridiculous. So I work in adult entertainment, and I get paid, but I'm going to tell you right now, the prices are just astronomical. We have so many girls that I work with that are telling us, you know, we sit there and we actually talk. I mean, we're bobbleheads, but we do talk about a whole lot of different stuff that's going on in Nashville. And one of the biggest things are housing. I'm just very lucked out. I live in Franklin, Tennessee. My grandparents owned a small farm here, and we love it. But I look at some of the other girls that I work with, and I feel so bad for them. When do you guys think that the actual market in Nashville is going to come down to a more comfortable price for everybody to be able to afford a house? So
let me ask you this then. I mean, without getting into too much detail, you and your friends, financially, I mean, how much can you afford? How much, you know, these days they say to live in Nashville, I mean, how much money do you have to earn to be able to buy a house, in your mind, do you think?
I'm going to tell you right now, it's a bunch.
Yeah.
It's a bunch. I mean, like I said, I just lucked out because my grandparents, you know, they passed away, and the whole, you know, deceased and desist thing and everything went over and came over down to me. Okay?
Yeah.
I was raised by them, and everything came to me.
Okay.
But I would say I have no idea. I think one of them went to a realtor. And they just ran her through the wire, you know, and she said, well, we were so happy, you know, for her. And he was a customer that was coming in there getting free drinks off of us. I mean, how could you do that? We were so ticked off. But anyway, we were just like trying to figure out what we could do to help her.
Okay, let's see what Bernie. All right, how about this? How can you help some of her friends? Well, how would you go about doing this?
Let me comment first on what you said about the housing prices. Okay. Unfortunately, we live in one of the hottest cities in the country. And when you have all of these folks moving to this great city, and it is a great city, don't get me wrong, I was just in Dallas this weekend visiting my in-laws, and as nice as Dallas is, this is a very special place we live.
I agree.
Okay?
And that's the thing. A lot of people say that. They never go anywhere, and they just think where they're at's the greatest place. Yeah. But when you travel and you get to see as much as you do and I have, you know, Nashville, it's got its warts, but it is a great place compared to other cities.
It is, and I think that folks that come here fall in love with it for a reason. Right. So, unfortunately, I don't really see the housing prices fall, and why I don't really want to see that, and I know you folks do because you want to buy a home, and I think that we can come up with another solution to you buying a property and making this thing work. But the housing prices are not going to probably come down, and if they do, we have some big problems in this country if they do, meaning we're in some sort of a recession and or we're in some sort of a war or something, and people just are holding on to their money, and then that's not healthy for the entire economy across the board. So I'm hoping and believing that the economy and the housing market will still continue to grow.
Well, what's the trick to make it affordable for someone? I don't know what income they make, but I think they probably do well, she and her friends. But, I mean, a lot of folks right now, instead of renting, and they're paying like $2,500 for a 700-square-foot apartment, which is ridiculous, and that's no equity being built. The key to me seems to be if you can find something, especially outside City Central, say someplace in Donaldson or Hermitage or Bellevue, if you can get a good down payment, you could get a house payment on a $300,000 or $400,000 house that's like $1,800 a month. The key is how big a down payment. They need a down payment.
There are certain areas of town that you can get a THDA loan in that won't require you to put anything down.
Really?
Yes. And so, but what I also want to say is there's programs out there right now where you can do a 2 and a 3 term buy down, which means you can lower the rate by 2 or 3%. And it's a short term program, like a 36-month program. However, it gives the opportunity to get into the home, very little money down, and at the same time, your rate will want to refinance your rate if the rate does drop. But if the rate doesn't drop, you're in a short-term percentage for a period of time, and you're developing equity in that home, which you and I talked about the rental versus the buying situation probably 4 or 5 months ago, right? And what we calculated through our show was that you're leaving about $70,000 or $80,000 on the table in equity position if you rent versus buying. So even though your rent is less today, the next year it's going to be a little bit more, the next year it's going to be a little bit more, next year it's going to be a little bit more. After about 2 or 3 years, your rental rate increases to a point of where it was when you purchased at that higher interest rate, but yet you're leaving all of that money on the table.
Exactly.
So feel free to reach out. And
so you think you can help her and her clients?
We can help
her and her colleagues.
We can help them, but remember, her question, I believe, was, how do we afford to buy a house? And I'll assume 2 questions here. One was interest rates are high, so that's causing us not to be able to afford it. And number 2, the down payment money needed in order to qualify. There's options in all of that. So just go to our website at BernieGallerani.com, fill out the form on there. We'll get a hold of you, and we'll talk to your folks. We'll turn you on to the lenders we work with, and they do an exceptional job at working out the program so people can afford it.
Yeah, again, it sounded like her friend was disappointed with a realtor that she was dealing with or something like that. Call Bernie. Ask to talk to Bernie. You won't get him, but you can ask to talk to Bernie.
No, you know what's really interesting? I got to tell you, all my radio commercials that I have, they all have my personal cell phone number on them. And no, they really do.
Okay, so...
No, they really do. So I actually advertise my cell phone, but what's fun is hardly any. The only time I ever get calls on my cell phone is if somebody's complaining about an ad that I have, but everyone usually just goes to the website at BernieGallerani.com.
Okay.
So, my cell numbers are out there, too. My personal cell numbers are out there.
We'll have the number up as we go to break. When you talked about the interest rates and how it goes, I know this got a lot of people in a lot of trouble a while back, but adjustable rates, ARMs, okay? Those are out there. In fact, my son purchased a house recently. We helped him with this, and we're working it like exactly with the game plan you said. We actually ended up getting an ARM, which is locked in for 5 years, and the plan will be my wife and I kind of put our names on that, and we're going to sell that sucker before the 5 years are up to him, and he's going to have a first-time homeowner's loan and buy it from us. I don't know, provided that. So we'll get out of the ARM. What do you think of that? The reason we did an ARM is because by locking in for the 5 years now with the ARM, it was a lower interest rate than we would have gotten otherwise.
I think that if you have responsible
we're going to be out of it before 5 years.
If you have responsible people there that are not getting too crazy after that 5 years,
right.
It's a great program.
And the concern with an ARM, of course, is once you get into it,
you're paying the rate. It is
whatever it is. It changes all the time. It's nice to be locked in to something. And another reason a lot of people aren't selling, right? Didn't you tell me, is that they're locked in right now to their 3% interest rate. If they wanted to sell and then buy a new home, they're paying 6%. That's why there's fewer homes being sold by a lot of people, right?
Yes, that's exactly it. So if you bought a home in 2020, or not only bought, but refinanced a home, because a lot of folks refinanced, right? And so a majority of these homeowners either bought a home and or refinanced their home in 2020 or 21 when the interest rates were at 2.7% or 3% or whatever they were. Now they're looking at it going, why would I get rid of this interest rate to buy a different home? Equities in these homes have gotten so expensive, right? Homes are going up, as she just mentioned. And so it doesn't make sense for a lot of sellers to sell right now because of the interest rate.
Let's take a call from Mike. I'm sorry, we just lost him. Mike, if you want to call back, give us a holler on that. But yeah, the interest rates, follow that. Let's go to the next question.
All right, so next question. So we just did one is how long do we think it should take to sell the home? All right. Number 3 is what challenges do you see in selling my home for top dollar? This is a really good one. What challenges? A realtor says, okay, well, I think that you have a sloped backyard or a sloped front yard, or you have to remodel a bathroom or a kitchen, right? A lot of homeowners, and this is actually a pretty interesting one. I'll have folks that'll say, should I remodel my kitchen? Well, if you need to remodel your kitchen, most likely you need to remodel the house. Just remodeling the kitchen doesn't improve the value because the rest of the bathrooms,
in contrast, all of a sudden won't look. But the kitchen is the most important. That's what a lot of people really look at first. Is that fair to say?
I think that the quality of design of the kitchen and the quality of the kitchen is super important. So yes, that in a master bathroom is the key. However, if the whole house is outdated, just remodeling the master bath or any of the bathrooms is not changing the value of the property. Okay? So what I try to tell people is it's always cheaper, less expensive, for us to make a small adjustment in the asking price than it is to remodel the kitchen. And here's what's interesting. Just because you remodel the kitchen and you put $50,000, $70,000 into a remodel, because I think we all know that remodeling isn't cheap.
No.
Right? It's very expensive. And so you go and you do all this, but your desire for granite, your desire for kitchen cabinets and flooring, but then the buyer loves your house but doesn't really like the selections you made in the kitchen, then there's no value at all to that buyer. So you've just wasted a ton of money.
Come down and
just adjust the price a little bit. It's going to be less money if you adjust the price slightly to cause a buyer to be more attracted to the bones of the property and then let them do the remodel. You will save yourself a ton of money. So there's some advice that all homeowners should ask and all realtors should actually say, no. I just have one recently actually that was talking with me, not a client of mine. They had another agent, and the agent suggested that they remodel this kitchen and these bathrooms, and I'm like, that should never have been done, because now the homeowner is doing exactly what the realtor asked them to do, and in the end this homeowner is going to make less money on the sale, which I don't think is fair.
We've got to take a break on that note. That's great advice. We'll be right back with more right after this. Back on Morning Line, Bernie Gallerani, taking phone calls if you'd like. Final segment. Going through these questions are awesome. We're not going to get through all 17 of them.
No, we're not. But this next one's a good one.
Okay.
And this one is actually the biggest mistake ever made by a homeowner. This next one.
Okay.
All right. It says here,
this is good.
Do you work full or part-time? You never hire a part-time realtor to have the biggest investment that you own.
Meaning you're asking that question, okay, meaning that you hire someone, when you say part-time, meaning I'm a real estate agent, but I also bartend 5 days out of the week?
Yes. Or I only do it on the weekends, or only do it when I'm not working, right? Here's the challenge, and I want people to really, I'm going to go extreme here, but if you need to have a brain operation, are you going to ask the doctor what other career he has before, oh, listen, I moonlight at the grocery store, and then I operate during on the weekends. Absolutely not. This is your biggest financial value you have in most people's lives, is owning your home. And when you have a 500, and I keep using 500,000 as the average sale
that's
price.
fine.
But if you have a $500,000 hedge fund or a $500,000 management fund, are you going to give it to somebody that just got out of finance school? Or are you going to give it to somebody that you think that can actually perform at a high level? Here's what's really interesting. Most realtors in our community and in our area and across the United States are all part-time.
Yeah.
And so what happens is they hire this realtor, the house sits on the market, and it doesn't sell. They have carrying costs. The market has adjustments either down or up, and the homeowner ends up losing a ton of money, and they don't even realize how significant. I don't care who you hire. Choose me, not choose me, but I don't hire anybody unless they're a full-time realtor.
Okay, and do you know they're a full-time realtor if they're working for a big real estate company like yours? How do you know? The ones who are part-time, are they just in it on themselves and they're taking
okay, let's go to the next few questions because we're going to line all this up, okay? Number 2, how long have you been selling real estate?
Okay.
It's a good question.
Okay.
Are you a full or part-time realtor, which was the question we just had? What is your average days on market? Very important. How long does it take you to sell a home? I'm telling you now, you should take 30 days to sell the house. If you don't sell the house in 30 days, I'm going to buy the house from you. If you don't, that's how important it is for us. We can sell every house in 30 days. Do we? Absolutely not. We do not sell every house in 30 days. We sell a lot of our houses within 30 days. And I can tell you why we go past 30 days is because we haven't had the exposure on the property and we're having some resistance from the seller in what we're suggesting. Okay? So average days on market. It should be less than 30 days. Ours is 17. Okay? Wow. How many current listings do you carry? Now, this is probably how you identify whether they're a full-time realtor. All right? How many listings do you carry? I carry about 75 to 85 listings at a time, so that's what I have today, depending on the day of the week. So 75 to 80 homes at one time I'm marketing as a listing agent. Okay. So if they carry 1 or 2, they can never have 1 or 2 and sell enough homes to be a full-time realtor. And they might only do it full-time, but they don't have enough experience, right? So I like using, like, you have high school, you have college, you have major leagues, and you have the professional baseball league, right? At every level is a different skill level, which means that 10% of the farm team over here, the Sounds, right? 10% of those folks will actually make it to the major leagues. Why? Because they only take the best of the best.
That's right.
The big realtors actually make the most sales. So you want to find one that has a track record of 12 months or more of selling, let's just say 12, 15, 18 homes, right? Now we sell 600 and 700 homes a year, but I have a small group. I personally was selling about 150 homes personally every year when I was selling at the peak of my real estate career. You want to find an agent with experience selling homes, okay? So what are your average days on market? How many current listings do you carry? Do you sell more buyers? Now this is equally as important to a seller as anything I can say today, all right? Do you sell more buyer sales or listing sales? Not how many homes did you sell last year.
Okay, so buyer sale, okay.
Buyer sales and listing sales are actually two different careers. It's like me going to college to be a finance major or me going to college to be a doctor. They're two different businesses. People wouldn't believe that, but if the reason why most homes sit on the market and do not sell is because usually you have an agent who represents buyers in the most cases, and their challenge of selling listings is very challenging for them. Okay, so there's so much more to listing and marketing a home than there is at working with a buyer. A buyer basically opens a door, says, "Do you love the property or not? Great, let's go look at the next one." The seller has to market the seller's agent has to market the property to get the buyers in there.
It's a
whole different game.
Yeah, okay.
One's a marketing game, one's an open door game.
And what should you be looking for in that then?
Well, if you're listing your home, you're looking for a listing agent. If you want to buy a house, you find a buyer's agent.
Okay.
Two different things.
Okay, we've got 4 minutes, so let's go ahead and see what other one you want to hit.
How many homes have you sold in the last 12 months? We just talked about that. Very important. What is your marketing strategy to get the home sold? So what are you going to do to sell the property?
Well, here's the thing. You know, you can ask these questions, and I can get the answer, but I don't know if the answer is a good one or not.
I know.
That's the problem. You'll give me the answer, and I'm sure you would give me a good one, and I'd say that sounds good to me, but if someone wants to snow me with something, I just have no experience in the field, so they may be telling me something, and I say, oh, okay.
I can make it really easy for the consumer that's listening. Okay. If they sell a lot of homes, they do a lot of marketing.
Fair enough. Okay,
so that's where we said how many homes you sell in the last 12 months. If they sell 6 or 8 homes in 12 months, their marketing ability is very low. If they sell 18, 20, 25, 30 homes in a year, let's just say, or 4 homes in a year, they probably don't have much of a marketing campaign. If they sell 20 homes in a year, they have a marketing campaign. We sell 600, 700 homes in a year, we have a marketing campaign.
But if they sell just 4 homes a year, what if all they do is, what if they only took 4 homes to sell? They didn't take any others on. They had 4 and they just sold 4. Part-timers.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a full-time realtor, then why would you want to make part-time income?
No, you're right. I'm saying part-timers, but part-time realtors sometimes may just sell 1 or 2 homes. You told me that the average realtor
sells 4 homes a year. Well, actually, 50% of every licensed agent in the United States, so half, didn't sell 1 home last year. 0. The other half, 4 homes per year, is in the selling side. But this is what's really interesting.
Wow.
Out of all of the agents in the United States, there's 1.5 million agents, okay? 125,000 of 1.5 million sold 4 or more homes last year.
125,000?
8%.
8%.
Yes.
4 or more homes.
Yes. So if you're finding an agent who sold 10 homes, they're in that 125 population, right? If you're selling 15 to 25 homes a year, you're in the top 1% of realtors in the nation.
Is that what you're looking for then when you ask if someone says, I sell 25 a year? You have to assume they're pretty good.
Oh, yeah. If they're selling 25 homes a year, they're probably pretty good.
How many on your staff do that?
Well, we don't even keep you on our group unless you sell 24 a year. So all of our agents sell more than 20.
So they all get coffee.
Yeah, we don't have anybody in our company that is underperformer. And for the industry, 25 isn't an underperformer. That's a good realtor. In our world, 35 or 40 is pretty typical. We have agents selling 70, 80 homes in our group.
Wow.
But it's all about coaching and training and understanding and marketing and exposure. And so
and we just have 30 seconds. Is it pretty high pressure?
Yeah. But business is high pressure. It should be. Here's what's interesting.
15 seconds. Go ahead.
These homeowners are paying us a lot of money. Yeah. They should have a professional person who dresses professional, who shows up professional, who shows up on time, and who does the job that they say they should do. Anybody that doesn't do any of that should be out of the business. And so I believe that I only want the people that will do exactly what we ask them to do and that they serve the client at the highest level.
Serious. That's why you're the best. Bernie.
Thank you.
Thank you. As we go to break or later, I'm going to give everyone your cell phone number.
I don't care. They can call me.
Hey, take care of yourself.
I can take my care of myself.
We'll be back with his number and a programming note right after this.